Well, hi everyone. First, I want to just thank you all for coming. We literally, 29 days ago, I was like, okay, I've been wanting to do this event for a couple years now, and I'm gonna be in New York, so I just need to do it. And it was like in the middle of the night, and I turned to my husband and I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I've been wanting to do this event for so long. I think that this is the time. And he was like, you're insane. Like, you have I'm coming to New York with my 13-month-old son. My team, we're doing other stuff because we just launched a product, and I was like, I just really believe that we have the right team, and I think that we can pull this off. And so we just started working on it, and then I reached out to some friends in the wellness industry that I knew had a similar experience as I did, and with my unwell story, which I'll share in just a second. But I've been in the space long enough to know that there's so many people that are feeling they're over it. They're over the thought of just trying to be perfect all the time and trying to apply everything, and maybe they've personally experienced getting sick as well. And so they were all for it. Like, within a couple days, everyone that I had asked was like, yes, I'm here for it. I want to be part of this. I want to support this. And then 2 weeks after, we put the tickets up for sale, and everyone was just so supportive, and I was so overwhelmed and overjoyed with everyone, because I was like, wow, people want to hear these types of conversations. Like, people need this. I need this for myself, and I'm so happy that there are other people out there that need it just as much as me. And so we're doing this, and it was sold out within a matter of moments, and we really tried hard to get a bigger space, but I think this was the space where it all kind of started, and so it's just so perfect that we get to be here, and it's so intimate, and these conversations are so sacred, I think. So it's really nice to be in a really amazing room full of wonderful women that are supporting us. So thank you for that. And also, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, because without those brands, this wouldn't be possible at all. Putting on events like this is not cheap, and we're really, really small brands. So I just really want to say thank you to all of our sponsors, especially Just Date Syrup and Foria. It's just a really, really big deal that you guys did this for us, and I just want to say thank you. Also, I just wanted to share a little bit about my story before having our first interview with panelist Lee Tillman, who I'm super excited to have with us here today. But basically, I have been into whatever I thought wellness was since I was a little girl, and that started with being vegetarian because I had a pet chicken who I had to give away. And my sister, my older sister, she's like whispering, she's like, you know where that chicken's gonna go, right? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, they're gonna eat that chicken at the farm. Like, you're not just having it go to this amazing farm to have this wonderful life. Like, they're gonna end up eating that chicken. Who knows if that's what happened, but I was so devastated and just mortified at the thought of that. And I hadn't up until that moment. So I was 12 when I became vegetarian, but I was 5 when I took the chicken away. And when they took the chicken away. And at that moment was when I realized that what I was actually eating they were like animals. And I was so devastated, but I'm Persian, so my parents were like, there's no such thing as people who don't eat meat, so just put your head down and eat it, you're eating it. And then 6 years later, I found out what vegetarian meant at school, so then I came home and I was like, I'm vegetarian, and you can't do anything about it. And they were just like, okay, whatever, she used this big word, who knows what it is, because they're Persian and don't know. And then from there, I just kept, I think I felt that I didn't trust anyone, I would say. I had this feeling that they didn't know that this was a thing, so I'm just gonna take this into my own hands, and I'm gonna research and learn more. So from there, I got into yoga. It really helped me through my parents' divorce. But then in high school, I had a really hard time because my parents were separating, and so I had an eating disorder during that time. I would say for a couple years, the behaviors were taking place. And then I met my husband when I was 16. So we've been together since high school, and being like, it's so weird because I would say I thought my eating behaviors and disorders or whatever, my stuff around that had gone away, but I was just in this new relationship. We fell in love. I felt that we were perfect for each other, which I still feel, obviously, he's my husband. But after that, like, you know, everything happened so quickly. I went away to college and I was away from, I would say, like my problem. So I never experienced like an eating disorder after that. But then when I came back home after college was when all the things started happening, because I actually never dealt with my issues. It was just that I had like run away from them. And so I came back home, and at this time I was vegan. I was like, went to culinary school for raw food. I studied business, came back. I knew I wanted to be in the wellness space, but I studied, I went and I was like, I need to learn everything. So I studied under Matthew Kenny, and I wanted to start a vegan ice cream company. And then I just started learning more and more. I went off Adderall. I went off my hormonal birth control because I kept reading and applying everything I read, because I started feeling really good. So I was like, oh, okay. So I don't have an eating disorder. I just didn't learn how to properly like take care of myself. So once I started like getting into the food part of wellness and then like clean beauty and all that, I was like obsessed, because I started feeling amazing. But then even though I started feeling amazing, it got to a point where I started feeling unwell again. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't crack the code. There's so many things that I didn't address. My emotional aspects of why I was doing this or trying to control everything in my life. And also just, I don't know, this idea of why do I need to be perfect? Why do I need to look a certain way? Why is this such a big thing? And then from that, I wasn't vegan. I actually ended up getting so sick that I went to this doctor. And I went to so many doctors. Like, I didn't just go to one. I went to 1 million doctors, didn't listen to anything they said. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the best doctor ever. And I found him, and his name is Dr. Sadeki. And I trusted him, because I was like, he's Gwyneth Paltrow's doctor. He's the goop doctor. Like, he'll cure me. And then I went to him, and he normally tells people like, don't eat this or don't eat this, whatever. And I go to him, he's like, I need you to just forget about everything that you learned. I need you to go home. I need you to eat everything. And I need you to eat meat. I won't work with you if you don't. And he's like, I have plenty of vegan clients, but your blood work shows that you need iron. You're like malnourished. I was actually like 30 pounds heavier. Not that weight matters at all, but in this case, I think it's important to share that I was eating less. I was working out as much as I've ever worked out in my life, and I was continuing to gain weight. And he was like, yes, hormones are off, or like you have thyroid stuff, but it's all emotional. And I worked with him. He was like my mentor for a year. And we worked together on all the emotional stuff, and not that you're like fully cured after a year, but what he taught me was to be my own advocate. And he was like, you don't need to rely on me. I don't want to be your therapist that you rely on for the rest of your life. I want to teach you how to tackle on the issues that are kind of come your way for the rest of your life. Like, you're always going to have something that's going to trigger you. You're always going to have things that come up, but you're going to learn the tools to be able to deal with it. And it was so powerful. I will forever be like, I'm just so thankful to him. And I felt very privileged to have that experience. And so from then, I had this like super wellnessy health blog at that time that was very much like to give you an idea, I was afraid of bananas because they had too much sugar. I didn't eat my parents' rice or my grandmother's rice, even though like rice is such a big deal in Persian culture, and like saffron rice is the best thing ever. I like refused all the food that I could be, experiencing with my family and connect with them over this amazing food that we have as part of our culture. I was, not eating legumes, not eating this, but I was also vegan. I was all these things, and it was just really ridiculous. And everyone around me was saying something about it, but I just thought that they didn't know. I didn't trust them. It went back to like not having trust in them, and also not having trust even in myself, even though I thought I trusted myself, I thought I knew it, I didn't, because I ultimately didn't love myself enough, and I kept having these rules and having these boundaries that were super unnecessary. So we started The Fullest because of that experience that I had personally, and it was really important to me that I share this with as many people as possible, because I wanted, in a time where there's so many people getting into wellness, I wanted to prevent that from happening, because I realized that this is a societal issue, and we need to address that, because we are always looking for, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a better version of yourself and working on yourself, but there's something to be said about being obsessed with being perfect and looking a certain way, and always like chasing that and feeling like you're not enough. So we started The Fullest. It's been quite a journey. A couple years ago is when we started it, a little over 2 years ago, and it's been so wonderful. I've met so many amazing people, some of which are here today a lot, and writers, and then we came out here for a launch for our magazine, because we have a print magazine. And a friend of mine, Carolina, who is writing for us, she's right back there, she's moderating the next panel. She owns Freaky Health Chocolate, by the way. She had written this article that just like captured what we had been feeling at The Fullest. And it was all about just the ridiculous things that we do in this wellness industry. And so we had been joking around, because we love to be, self-deprecating and make fun of ourselves, because I don't hate wellness. I love wellness. I love everything I learned. I just don't want it to define who I am, I don't want it to make my decisions for me. I want to be the one making the decisions, because I know my body best and I know what's good for me, and I never want to shame myself or feel guilty for any decision that I make. So we chatted about Unwell like 2 years ago, but I got pregnant, and then I had a baby, and then I was like, I have no capacity for anything, and now we're here, and I'm just so excited. So thank you so much. We also at The Fullest have 4 different podcasts that we produce, one of which is actually called Cancer Casually, because our managing editor, who's not here today, she had breast cancer, and she was afraid to tell me. And then I was like, you're afraid to tell me? I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to be there for you. I don't know how to support you. Like, what can I do? And she was so positive the whole time. She didn't miss one deadline. She wanted to work the whole way through, because she was like, this actually makes me happy. This brings me joy. And so when she was done and she went into remission, I was like, you need to talk about this. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but we need to talk about this, because so many of us are affected by cancer, whether we've had it personally or we know people that have had it, and how can we be there to support them? So the subjects that we tackle, they're wellness, rooted in wellness, but we also believe every aspect of our lives is part of wellness, even politics. And a lot of people that I know in Los Angeles, like, they don't want to be up to date on politics. They're just like over it. It's just too much. And I love Marianne Williamson so much, because she was definitely in the wellness scene. And one day I actually had when she was running for Congress, I had a party for her, and she was like, that's like, politics is happening whether you're going to be part of it or not, so might as well join the conversation and have a say, because like GMOs and all these things, all the decisions that are being made are still going to affect you. So let's have a say in it. And so we do a weekly political roundup at The Fullest every week if you sign up for our newsletter. And then now we have a product that we launched called the Saffron Latte that I hope you guys will try at some point today. And it's great. Like I said, I went to culinary school, so I love things for culinary purposes, alternative lattes, all these things. But we really decided to formulate this with results and have it be functional. So the studies on saffron are unbelievable, and I've been just talking about it all week to all these editors, so I'm so sick of saying it out loud again, but I'm gonna say it again. They've used it for centuries as an antidepressant, and it is not something that I say, get off your antidepressants and go on, but it's amazing how 15 threads of saffron a day, which is 30 milligrams a day, has been shown to be as effective as a medication similar to Prozac. Obviously, everyone's dosage is different. We formulated ours with 150 milligrams per serving for that reason, so that people can get this instant high, I would say, this instant feeling of euphoria that we say, and it's like so weird to think, okay, I can instantly become happier, but coffee gives you energy instantly. Why can't something else? This doesn't give you energy. It just lifts your mood, and the way it works is it increases serotonin and dopamine levels, and so it's really good. It tastes good, and it's really good for you, and it does all sorts of other things, but again, we've launched the product, we're super passionate about it, but again, the message isn't, buy this product, it'll solve your problems, because that's not what we're here to say. We're here to say, buy this product, it might support you through some of the emotional things that you're going through if you're grieving or things here and there, but don't just rely on this one thing. Don't just do it because I said so. Do it if you like it, do it if it makes you feel good, but like, don't buy it because I think that it's gonna change your life and you don't need anything else. Just try it. If it's good, most of you will go home with it, and we're really excited to share it with you. So thank you for listening, and I'm really excited to share with you guys our next guest, Lee. I just want to give her a proper introduction, because I want to say that as soon as I emailed her, she was like, are you kidding me? Like, you have no idea how timely this is. I cannot believe you just emailed me. I'm so excited. Like, I'd love to be part of it. She just jumped on the bandwagon and was just there, number one, to support us. And Lee, I met Lee before I'd gone over to her apartment to work on a recipe like a while back, and that was when I was going through my stuff, and we were doing like low sugar smoothie bowl or something, and it's just crazy to look back on like how far we've both come, and how much we appreciate where we've come from, but how amazing it is to look back to see where we are at now and the message we're able to spread, which is obviously making wellness as accessible as we can. So, Lee Tillman is the writer, speaker, and blogger behind Lee from America. She's primarily known for her work in the health and wellness world, but is back with new insights and perspectives on wellness after a 7-month-long hiatus. She shares insights into her life and lessons through honest words and photos, but also shares lighthearted content like her favorite books and monthly playlists. Hi. I was like, wait, she probably doesn't know. You want to sit right here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, you guys. Thanks for hanging, everybody.
Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah. Lee came here all the way from LA, so really, really sweet of you to join us. And before we get into your unwell story, I kind of wanted to just, we've never really talked about like your background. I think you're from New York, are you?
I'm from Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut. Yeah, that's right.
Right outside.
Yeah, tell us where you're from and a little bit about your story before.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, so I'm from Connecticut, and first of all, I'm so happy to be here. I'm also kind of nervous, which is weird because I do a lot of public speaking, but for some reason, like Nikki and I were just like, this is nerve-wracking.
We were like,
it's like against what I've been like, what I built my business upon. Not against in a lot of ways, but it's my first time kind of like speaking, doing something after my hiatus, and also speaking about this topic. So it's nerve-wracking, but I'm really happy to be here, and thank you everybody for coming. It means so much to me, and this is such a cute little space. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, which is like an hour-long train ride from Manhattan. And so I guess you could say it's like a suburb of Manhattan. Like, so we called it like the city. And so like my dad grew up here. My grandparents are from here. I still have family here. My cousins live here. My sister and her husband live here. So I have a lot of ties to New York, and I used to live here. And I'm from like a really, I guess you could say like a pretty affluent area in the suburbs of New York. And from Fairfield County, and so like it was a great place to grow up because like you can leave your front door open, you can like there's like the neighborhood watch like is like real there. Like we've had the same neighbors. My parents bought their house when they were 27 and they still live in the same house today. So like the neighborhood is just like I grew up with my neighbors. Like we all like go to each other's weddings and like we watch each other's dogs. It's just like surreal, and doesn't exist in a lot of parts today. So like, my mom like leaves, you know, like the car doors unlocked overnight, which is just like baffling to me as like living in cities most of my adulthood. I'm just like, what? You don't do that. So yeah, I'm from like a really great place. Like we played tag outside. My parents are still married, but I definitely come from a place where like the pressure to excel and to succeed are on, especially like a family where like we weren't as like affluent as a lot of the other families, which is like crazy because in my like it was a lot of like wealth where I'm from, but we were not to that level as the other families. So I feel like my family felt like we had to work twice as hard to like prove to ourselves that, and like it was definitely like a place where like wealth and thinness and beauty, especially as a woman, and like going to a good college, but then basically like getting a job for 2 years, but then getting married and having children and moving back to the suburbs was expected of you. So there was like all this pressure to succeed and to conform. Oh yeah, like definitely. I'm like the black sheep of my town, I feel like. But
they all live vicariously through you.
I feel like, yeah, like a lot of my mom's friends are like, we love your dances, you know? Like my mom's like minister follows me and DMs me all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, like I think so. I think like, you know, I have an aunt who's very eccentric and I feel like I take after her in a lot of ways. Like she noticed how my sister and I started shaving our legs when we were like 11 or 12, and my aunt like is very against shaving and lives like in Jamaica Plains in Massachusetts. She's such a hippie. She wrote like a bunch of vegetarian cookbooks, but she told my mom, she was just like, wow, you're really like going to let your daughters like remove their body hair, like don't you think that's like showing them the wrong message? And we would like make fun of her because she was such a hippie, and she used to like give my mom so much crap for letting us wear makeup because she was just like, she's very extreme in the like feminist side of things, like, you know, like, so basically like I had all this family where like my mom and my sisters take like an hour or two to get ready, like they put their face on in the morning, and then
oh my gosh,
like my aunt who's just like, who would like, you know, poo-poo it. So it was just like very like outspoken either way, whether I was like on one side of the extreme, like not shaving my armpits, like it was like, it's a huge deal in my family. Like my sister got married last year and I had hairy armpits and we were all fighting the morning of the wedding.
Oh my gosh. What did you end up doing?
I ended up like, so my sister asked me like on her wedding day, she was like, please shave. And I was like, why are you worried about my armpits? Like you're literally marrying your husband in like 5 hours. And I like started crying and I pulled her into my room and I said like, I want this to be your day. And like, if you really want me to shave, like I realized that it was actually like making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. And I realized that like, if I just shaved, it would just not be a big deal. And so what I did is I went into the bathroom and I shaved, I trimmed my hair and then I shaved like into like a little circle, so it was like a little patch. And so like my dad walked by and he was like, oh good, you're shaving those pits. And I was like, well no, I'm just trimming them. And he was like, please shave them. And I was like, Dad, that's like me asking you to cut your dick off. And he was like,
God.
I was like, no it's not. And I was like, you're asking me to alter my body and it's mine. So I still have like that was maybe like a little extreme in response. I apologize. But I still stand by like and I think like my family, I don't know, I've like asked my family numerous times to like not comment on my appearance, and that's like a big boundary that I have to put on, because I think like when I come home or whatever, like it's just the first thing is like commenting on the appearance, like not instead of being like, how are you? It's like, oh my God, like it's like 15 minutes of appearance, and then maybe like let's get into the other stuff, the less important stuff to them. And so like I've had to like put that boundary up.
Yeah, and they probably didn't ever think about it because it's probably learned, right?
Yeah. No, totally.
It's so
like
crazy.
There's no ill intention there at all. But it's more of just kind of like, oh, like it's just so. And when I go
routine.
home and spend time with my family, I start to get into that, and it's like, yeah. So.
And yeah, that area I'm sure is just like hard not to. But then when you know yourself enough, you kind of keep you at that boundary.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what inspired you to start your blog then? And did you start it here or you were living in LA?
So this is my, Lee from America. I've been blogging for 10 years. My first blog was called For the Love of Peanut Butter, and it was an eating disorder recovery blog that I had when I was 18 through 19, and it was popular. Like, a lot of my current followers were also first blog followers.
That's
which is
impressive.
So crazy. And it was before anyone started blogging as a full-time job, and so I remember when I deleted it, like a couple years later, I started to realize that people were using like BlogHer and making money, and I remember being like, why did I delete that? Like, this could have been my career. And then people would, when I moved to New York and started getting into wellness, people would be like, start a blog. And I was like, no, I've already done that. My there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to do that again. Like, it's so much work, and it took so much work to get an audience before. I was like, I don't understand how I would be able to do that now.
And wait, so you moved from Connecticut to New York, or you were anywhere else?
I was in Philly for school, and that's where I had For the Love of Peanut Butter, and then I moved home for a year back to Connecticut, and then I moved into New York.
Okay. And then you started right then and there. What else did you do on the side?
I was working full time I was in finance when I first moved here, and then I was in hospitality, and then I was doing basically marketing and social media for a restaurant group. And I did the blog on the side, maybe 6 months into my my restaurant job, working. I was basically doing social media, but I was also sometimes hostessing. It's like a restaurant, so you have to do everything.
Mm-hmm. And then you moved to LA?
Yes, and then so my boss wanted to open up a restaurant in LA, and so we would go out every 2 months, and so I started to go out to LA a lot. It was such a cool job. I was flying with my boss, and I thought LA was so glamorous and glitzy, but I also loved how LA was so healthy, because when I was in New York, I was partying a lot. I was out until the sunrise, and then I would have 6 months of partying and drinking and craziness, and then I would swing so hard to the other side of the spectrum, sign up for a marathon and go to the Jackrabbit store on Union Square, get fitted running shoes, and only eat bananas for a week, and be so obsessed with wellness. And I thought wellness was the cure to my partying. I thought it was so extreme. And so when I came to LA, I was like, wellness is a lifestyle here. It's not I associated New York with those two extremes of winter was partying because it was cold and I couldn't work out, and then in the summer I could be healthy. I was so unhealthy in my thinking about the world. It was basically my health and my wellness and my appearance was the most important thing, and so that dictated my move to LA.
So what about friends? Did they ever have anything to say about that, or
about the move?
No, just kind of that way of being.
Honestly, I don't think anyone knew that I was struggling.
Yeah.
My friends did not know. I think one friend knew, but she was basically you're partying a lot. No one ever said, until the last year, I had no one close to me ever say you're really extreme. And if anyone did, I'd be I would just be I felt I had such a community and support in wellness that I would be oh, that person doesn't support me. Or I'd be oh, it's my job, so I don't know.
This in general, you're talking about, not just New York, but in general.
No, in general. Yeah. But no one from New York ever was
don't just eat bananas.
No, and like you, I was finding all my information online, which is crazy because there's just so much misinformation. So I was really doing a lot of self-study, and I also thought I was miseducated, and I was so angry at the world for telling me to eat gluten, and I was wow, I should only just be eating bananas.
Yeah.
And following those Australian vegan bloggers.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's ridiculous.
And then but then I went to a lower level of wellness, skipping ahead of going into LA and being a little bit more balanced in wellness, and then realizing that I actually wasn't. I thought I was being more balanced, but I wasn't.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Yeah, I want to. I mean, we kind of got into your eating disorder a little bit before. So, did you feel when you were 18, 19, when you had your blog, that was about eating disorder recovery, did you feel you had recovered?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. So I went to treatment for my eating disorder when I was 18, and it was a great experience. I went to residential. I was put on medication, on anti-anxiety, and like I got like good enough, and that was like 12 years ago. So like the treatment models have totally changed from 12. It's been a long time, but like I would say that I struggled a lot. Like I was kind of like relapsing a lot with my eating disorder and struggling to keep the weight on for a year. And during that year, I had that blog, For the Love of Peanut Butter, where I was photographing 3 meals a day and sharing about what it was like to be like a freshman in college with an eating disorder. And I decided to delete it on a whim because I thought that it was tying me to my identity as an eating disorder. And I was starting to get recognized on my campus because people on my campus were starting to follow me, and I realized how detrimental it was to my health to be like associated as like the recovered girl, because that really what like people would come up to me on campus and be like, I love your blog, I'm also recovering from it. And so I was like, I need to like just be a kid. So I deleted the blog, which was like the best decision that I made. Like the business side of me was like, why did I delete that? But like the emotional mental health society part of me like was like, oh, I needed to do this. This is really important. And then that's when I kind of like actually like started, without even really realizing it and having the professional help, but like I was actually like intuitive eating for a year, and like really just like stopping like, you know, the nutrition check-ins and all that kind of stuff, and was kind of just like off to the races and trying to like find recovery. But then like soon after like discovered Bikram yoga and like relapsed with
Oh my God,
again,
totally. Bikram.
Yeah.
Obsessed.
Yeah.
I was obsessed.
Yeah, me too. I did the 30-day challenge. Which
Yeah.
is always so extreme. Like if I couldn't just do Bikram once a month.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But okay, so you cut off the blog, obviously, because you felt like it was becoming your identity. You just wanted to be normal, but you started partying. Did you kind of know when you were being extreme in that way, where you would party and then eat bananas for a week?
Yes, I was.
You
like,
knew that it
how
was.
is this is not a life. Like,
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong, and I don't know if I ever like touched on it in my Lee from America blog, because I thought it was such a. I didn't really like. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, why can't I just be healthy all the time? That's what the problem was in my head.
Yeah.
It wasn't that there were two extremes. I thought the healthy version was the good thing, and that like anything besides like optimal health and wellness was like, I thought it would be binging or partying. Like I thought intuitive eating was binging in my head, because I come from a restrictive mindset.
Yeah.
And I come from like, I grew up in diet culture, so I thought that like eating whatever you want, I was like, well, that sounds terrible. That sounds like emotional eating. And like I just had been like taught that was all bad. So I thought my problem was that I didn't have the discipline to be healthy all the time and to eat bananas for life.
So then when you did have the discipline and started eating low sugar smoothies and doing that, then, how long did that go on for, I guess?
So by that time I had started Lee from America, and I had been diagnosed with PCOS, and I never had any cysts on my ovaries, but I did have like all the symptoms. And so like now PCOS like diagnoses are kind of like it's getting overdiagnosed a ton now, and there's still so much research that needs to be done. But I was diagnosed with PCOS, and so I basically like embraced wellness, because like you, I started to feel, I started to embrace this like holistic diet, and I started to feel really good, because during PCOS like I felt really sick and I didn't feel like myself. And so when I started eating really healthy, I felt really good. So I was getting that like positive reinforcement. Like for myself, I was like, wow, like I'm healing my body. Like I don't need doctors. I don't need Western medicine. Like the key is diet. And I kind of like started like viewing like birth control and like a lot of forms of medication and basically anything that wasn't like natural or healthy as like bad. And I didn't want that, because I wanted to be like as pure and good as possible and as healthy as possible.
What's the deal? Why do we want to be like that? I mean, it's good to be natural.
Yeah.
I mean, I still believe that, but why do you think that we're so obsessed with being 100% so pure and perfect?
I think like a lot of like wellness and diet also, like people treat it as like a religious experience and like a religious like cult, and like people are like, it's their community, it's also their identity, like what we were talking about earlier. Like when I took my hiatus this year, I had to figure out who I was without wellness, because wellness was my identity. Like I swam, I like if you cut my arm open, like matcha would come out. Like, I didn't know who I was without wellness, and I thought that was like who I was at the core. And so I was like, who am I without Instagram and who am I without wellness?
What inspired you to take that leap? I mean, I feel like you're really intuitive though still. I mean, if you think about, you cut your blog off because you intuitively knew that you didn't want to, I mean, the original blog. So obviously maybe intuition played a role, but what got you to the point where you're like, I'm going to take, you'd taken a small hiatus before.
Yeah, I'd taken like 10 or 12 days off once. And I remember telling my aunt, that hippie aunt that I was telling you guys who doesn't shave, she's a writer and she's done like public television shows, and so she like, if she grew up in our time, she would have an Instagram, but she basically like has been watching my career. And so when she heard that I saw her over Christmas when I was taking my 12 days off, I was like, Dee, I'm taking 12 days off. And she was like, well, you need to take 6 months or a year off. Wow. And I remember looking at her and being like, are you kidding me? I'll lose my career. Like like my job is to share content every day, and it has to be the best content ever. Like,
that sounds stressful.
it was so stressful.
Yeah,
but
it's
like,
your career.
I thought that's what good I had to do.
Yeah.
Instagram was my life, and my life was Instagram, and I was like, I can't take 6 months off. Like, I remember like that planted the seed, you know, like the seed planting when you're ready to do something, but you like and maybe today, like some of you guys are getting a seed planted, but like for sure, I remember she planted the seed, and at first I was like repulsed by that idea, and I was like, she just wants to sabotage, but I was like, she probably has something to say. She's in her 50s, and she's been alive longer than me, and she's been like in the public eye for a long time, and it's really easy to burn out. And she was like, basically like, take care of yourself. But I didn't think I like deserved a 6-month break. I thought I would lose everything, you know, like I had the lack of abundance mindset where I was just like, oh, I couldn't, I was so afraid. But then it got to a point where like I needed to, for my mental health, to take a break, because I was like feeling very unwell mentally. Yeah,
I mean, you were giving yourself so much to other people, and like we talked about, it was like a drug.
Yeah.
And then not giving it to them is just, you know, no one's okay with it.
Oh yeah, and like 2 weeks before my hiatus, I remember like having a full-on panic attack in my apartment, like with my puppy, and I had to do this post, and I was like curled up in a ball crying because I did not want to go on Instagram. Like my body and my like everything about me was just like, no, like I can't, like it was causing so much anxiety, just like the pressure that I was putting on myself, and just like I felt like I had to, and I loved it, and like I love what I do, but I was doing it in an unsustainable way, and I didn't realize it until I felt like I was having panic attacks just by like opening up Instagram.
So when you took your hiatus, did you ever check your Instagram?
No.
Like,
no. And like if I was at a table and someone was like, hey, I want to show you this thing on Instagram, I'd be like, can you not show me? I almost kind of was like pretending to live in a world without Instagram, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool. I mean, like, and then I realized like I can't live in a world without Instagram. It's like
part of our culture
today, and so like, how can I approach this in a sustainable way? Which is like what I feel like I'm doing now, where it's like we can't necessarily like, you know, avoid, and like Instagram is a tool. Like someone said to me, like Instagram is like a chainsaw in your tool shed. It's really good for doing certain things, but it's not the tool that you're going to use all the time. Like you're not going to like if you lock yourself out of your door, you're not going to like chainsaw into your apartment. You know what I mean? Like, or like if you like are trying to like cut a carrot, you're not going to use a chainsaw. Like you don't use your chainsaw for everything, so you don't use Instagram for everything. So I remember being like, someone said like it's a tool, but it's not to be used for everything, and you have to know when to put it down.
Yeah.
Like if I was chainsawing my way around, like no.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I love that. I think that's great. I asked you earlier, and I think people would want to hear, but how did you avoid people when when you were on your hiatus? Because obviously people were curious, and LA's big, but you live in a specific area, and that's your little neighborhood. So how did you?
Well, first of all, I moved neighborhoods because my place flooded, so I had to move. So I think like I moved like 40 minutes away. So I moved back to the east side, and I feel like I don't know if it was just like something like in the air, and like people just like knew to like not say anything. But I remember like one of the only times I met my followers was at Pride. I went to Pride in LA, and like a couple people came out to me. But also maybe it was like the haircut people didn't know. But I think also like I stopped going to all those wellnessy places where my followers would go, like Erewhon, Whole Foods, Soul Cycle, Honey High. I didn't go to those places anymore, and that's where they all hang.
Must have been so difficult. Did you cook a lot?
No, like also part of my experience has just been like stepping away from the kitchen too, because like I think part of my like, you know, like orthorexic eating disorder of like being obsessed with wellness was like cooking everything homemade, like making, like I would spend 8 hours meal prepping on Sunday.
Whoa.
Yeah,
for the week?
For the week.
Wow,
yeah.
What would you make?
Like chicken, vegetables, cut up carrots. And so I noticed how like during my hiatus I was like feeling a pull away from the kitchen, but I think also like I know I love to cook, and I don't think it's uncommon for people who are either like doing food full time for a job or recipe developers to like take a step back. It's kind of like a singer tours and then they like go on hiatus for 2 years, like Adele, you know?
Yeah.
So like, they do their art and their work, but then they step away and reboot. So I just consider this time like a reboot. But yeah, like I'm not really cooking right now. I'm usually like eating most meals out with friends or like, I don't know.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And how has it changed with your group of friends?
Well, I would say like my group of friends has changed immensely too, because like when I started taking a hiatus and started like kind of like stepping back from wellness, I realized like how much of my community was like based in the orthorexic
mindset.
Yeah, and if nobody knows what orthorexia is, it's a eating disorder categorized by placing value and anxiety when you can't like eat healthy, or basically somebody who'd be like really anxious if they're at a restaurant and they cook their fries in canola oil, or like
me.
Or like someone who cuts out certain food groups because it's healthy, not for medical reasons. And it's not in the DSM yet, but it's going to be soon. And a lot of my community was orthorexic, and a lot of like health and wellness is like also based in diet culture. So it's a lot of like trying to lose weight, trying to alter and manage and control our body weight, trying to like fit into this like one specific lens of health, which is usually thin. And like also just very inaccessible to a lot of other people. So I noticed how when I stepped away from wellness, like I had to like put up boundaries with a lot of friends who would talk about how many steps they're taking.
Whoa,
like,
yeah.
You know, I had a friend, like we went camping on Labor Day weekend, and she was like, oh my God, we did X amount of steps today. And I was like, can you like not talk about like exercising like that around me? And she was like, why? And I was like, well, I just feel like there's other things to talk about besides like how many steps we have to do. Like I love you, and I want to talk about like other things, like the mass shootings, like, you know, like let's talk, like, well, not that, it doesn't do that, but like, you know, like there's so many other interesting things. And I love what you said, that like Unwell is talking about like politics and stuff, because it really is something that we can't ignore. But I think like it's wellness is such a great distraction. It's such like a safe place, and it was like a safe place for me to have my eating disorder and like not pay attention to anything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's so easy to have it, and no one will know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's
because
like,
it's so
celebrated.
It's accepted. Yeah.
It's especially in LA.
I know, and like growing up, I don't know what it is, but Persians love plastic surgery. I mean, I know a lot of people love plastic surgery, but Persians love it. In my family, like every single person, no matter what gender you are, everyone's had plastic surgery. So like I'd be really little, and my grandma or my aunt got like 2 tummy tucks and was just like laying on the couch, and she's larger, and you know, and I was just like, but why? Like, I love you the way you are. You're so fun. You're so wonderful. But like, she didn't love herself, and so she kept like wanting to do this thing that was going to make her perfect, look perfect. But really, it was just like, I don't know. It just was causing more pain because it was uncomfortable. And yeah, I don't know. I digress. But I just thought it was interesting because that's how I grew up. Yeah. Like, that's how we grew up. Yeah. Is the place that I was. I mean, I know it's everywhere, but like I live in Orange County, so I feel like it is similar to Connecticut and the suburbs too, where you're just like, that's all you're seeing. Yeah. So it becomes celebrated. Yeah. So I was like 12 years old, and that same aunt, her son was getting married, and they were like, everyone needs to go on a diet. Right. And my mom's like, you're telling my 12-year-old daughter to go on a diet? Like, that is not okay.
Right.
But they're like, no, we're all doing it together. It's fun, you know?
Right. And I think like the thing about like plastic surgery is that like it's not necessarily good or bad, but when you're brought up in a family where it's the norm, or where it's celebrated or expected to, like my one of my friends from Connecticut, like when they're 16, their father gifted them all nose jobs on their 16th birthday.
So crazy.
Like being like, I'll get you a new nose.
No, it's so crazy. It's so wild.
But like, yeah, and like, in my family, my grandmother has had plastic surgery, but it's a secret. Like, she doesn't want anyone to know. I'll be like, Grandma, your skin's so nice, and she'll be like, it's the Clinique moisturizer. And then my mom's behind her, and she's like, gets like facelifts, like
you're like,
it's
the facelift.
She, like, hides away, but she won't even admit to it. So it's like this secrecy thing where it's like, I just look like this, you know. So it's like not even being honest. But I think it's just like, you know, there's like, whether you want to get a nose job or nose boobs or not nose boobs. But
maybe that's the next thing.
You know, like there's nothing. It's not like not necessarily. I don't think what we're saying is that it's like good or bad. It's just like being able to, especially like, live with integrity and be like, I don't want to do that for myself. Like making the decisions for yourself, not because society tells you to.
Exactly.
Not because you feel pressure to, but because if you want a new nose or a tummy tuck or whatever,
do it for you. Yeah.
And not necessarily because you feel like you need to be in a different body.
I totally agree. I think that's why some plastic surgery offices, I think, make you like talk to a therapist or something before. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I think that it's important because then you get to reevaluate, why am I doing this? And then it goes back to you. But anyways, okay, so or do you ever wish that you had a career outside of social media? And if so, what would that look like?
Oh man, I love what I do. I sometimes like, I think back on like when I was like, I had a smaller following and like it was just smaller, and I sometimes like think back about that. But I honestly feel like I was like, I just love writing. I feel like I was like meant to do what I do now. There's times where I think, especially like before I took my hiatus, where I didn't ever even like really thought about a different career option. But when I was on my hiatus, I definitely like took a step back and was like, okay, what is my intention here? What am I doing? I have a social responsibility with a following to do something. I feel, not everyone with a following necessarily has a responsibility to do anything. They can do whatever they want, but I felt like I had a responsibility to show up with like more intention and care in how I was sharing and what I was talking about. But honestly, I don't know what I would do. I think I would probably just like write books and not have an Instagram, which could happen eventually.
Yeah, you could still do that.
Yeah, but for now, I like it.
I'm excited for your book. So how do you stay positive amidst all the noise and speculation? I want to say something. Okay. So ever since Lee promoted this event, we've had some of her haters like on our platform being so mean. And that's why I'm asking this question, because you deal with so much. And I just wanted to say that you're dealing with it so gracefully. And I'm really inspired by you still wanting to share your message and just being vulnerable. So thank you.
Yeah. I would say like the most important thing for me in like dealing with all the noise and speculation is remembering that like I don't get my validation from Instagram. I don't get my validation from work. And so like I get my validation from like elsewhere, from like being a good person outside of Instagram and like having real friends and like being just like trying my best to be a good person. So that it helps me put perspective. Also, I just don't read comments anymore. I don't read DMs. So if you ever DM me or write a comment, I love you. I'm sorry I haven't responded, but I just don't do that anymore because the negativity can be really detrimental and it can actually like inhibit me from doing my job. And I want to keep doing my job for other people who support me. So one of my boundaries is just not spending as much time on social media. And it hurts that I don't get to see all the good comments because like 99% of them are good. But then like when I see a negative comment, I can just be like really sad for like a week and like can't shake it because it's just like that one negative comment. I'm like, you know,
yeah,
and it just like
it
hurts.
Gets
it
you
like,
under your
me.
skin.
Yeah,
oh my
so
gosh.
One of my like most important things is just not spending as much time on social media and like sharing more with intention and really being careful like how much I'm using. Like I think yesterday, like being in New York, I was on my Instagram for so much because I have a personal account just for friends and family, and I was with like my cousins, and so I was like doing so much Instagram story. By the end of the day, I was like, whoa, like I felt really weird like being on social media so much. But that was like my life before my hiatus, but now my intolerance for just like I'm like, oh, I need to ground, I need to connect, like you know, like what's important, like I need to talk to somebody, you know, in real life.
My gosh, everyone was like, where is Lee? When is she coming back? Like it was just the topic of conversation, and it's so crazy to be sitting here talking to you about this now and being totally on the same page as, you know, on wellness. Yeah. Okay, so my last question before opening it up to Q&A, hopefully we have some time, is just what inspires you to continue sharing in this space? Like what's your newfound perspective, if you could just sum it up?
So I think my newfound perspective is like sharing my experience, like basically what I've just shared with you guys, but like on my channels, and like coming from and like also like what I was saying before with like finding my identity without wellness. And like I think Instagram is so funny because we want to be told who somebody is like in a second. We want to judge someone. We want the bio, like 4 words, like what are you? I used to have like recipe stylist, whatever. And I'm like figuring that out now, and I'm like in the process of transformation, and it feels really uncomfortable to be doing that like on social media. But it's what's happening, and like I feel so lucky that I'm able to like share this journey, because I also feel like even just talking about this today is like so cathartic for me, and hopefully we'll be able to like help one person. So that's like really what inspires me, is just like hopefully helping somebody.